What is up guys, it's Tool Guy Y here, and today I'll be walking you through how I remove the engine on a 2016 Ford Edge. Let's get it. This is going to be a little different than my normal walkthroughs. I will be doing a time lapse just to save some time. Now let's get it. Alright, first things first, we have to remove the bumper. There is a more in-depth video, link in the description below. Also keep in mind a lot of these things that I'm doing requires 2 people or more, due to the fact that they're heavy or they are fragile. So big shout out to my buddy because he is helping me out a lot. Next I remove the radiator support. Everything comes off with it, including the radiator, the condenser, and the intercooler. Alright, this is where all the fun began. Alright, I started off by removing as much clips and connectors as I can. I did start from the bottom of the engine in the front side, because that was the easiest to get to. Then I removed the throttle body, then I removed the intake. Then I cleaned up some of the coolant hoses and got that out of the way. And then I moved some of the AC lines. After mostly everything was disconnected, I worked on routing all the electrical wires out of the way so that we can hang it over the fender. Alright, so in this clip we are on the transmission side, or transaxle I guess. But we are removing more of the electrical connectors and disconnecting the tabs. And then again we are routing all the wire harnesses towards the upper driver corner. Now that that's cleared up, we'll work our way to the top of the engine and disconnect all the coil packs and miscellaneous sensors. There is also a wire that goes across the engine to the rear. Alright, so now we're at the high pressure fuel pump area. There is a couple O2 sensor connectors in the back. There is also one connector that goes to the coolant temp sensor, which is really hard to get to. We are going to have to remove a bunch of brackets and whatnot to get to it. Next we made our way to the bottom and disconnected some of the crank sensor and turbo sensors. Then we removed the charge pipe in the back. The charge pipe does cover some of the wiring in the back of the valve cover. Also, I'm using brake cleans for all these stuck hoses, but if you guys never tried that, I definitely recommend trying it out. After that, we went under the car and we removed the exhaust and the drive shaft. Next, we removed the battery and the battery tray to access more wires and wire harnesses that went to the back of the engine. This wire went down from the top of the engine down to the bottom of the subframe, then across the electronic rack, and was held down by a bunch of tabs. Once it's free, route it to the upper driver corner. After that, I cleaned up the area where the transmission meets the block. That way I can loosen some of the upper bell housing bolts. With everything freed up, I was able to disconnect the shift linkage as well, disconnect it from the trans side, and disconnect the bracket holding it down. In preparation of the engine and trans removal, I had to remove both CV axles. Lastly, before I dropped the subframe and dropped the engine, I had to unbolt the torque converter. I just spun the crank 1 revolution and there should be 4 nuts holding the torque converter in place. Alright, so to be a little safer, I am going to remove the subframe on jack stands. However, I'm just loosening up all the bolts in the air right now, and then I'm going to lower the car onto jack stands. So what I did was I placed 2 jack stands in the front and 1 in the back. Then I lowered the car on it. Then I removed all the subframe bolts. Then I just lifted the car up. Next, I double checked to make sure all the wire harnesses were up and hung over the fender. Once everything was hung up, I removed the transmission mount. So I originally had the engine sagging a little bit because I was trying to remove the trans in the car. However, you can't really do that because the turbo needs to come off and the transfer case also needs to come off as well. So in preparation for that, I did loosen all the bolts for the bell housing on the bottom before dropping the engine and trans. And I did one more quick look around to make sure nothing was connected. Alright, so we're at the part where we're going to drop it, and my way to drop it was to put it on some pallets and then bring the car all the way down and just loosen all the motor mounts. If you are going to do it my way, you need to make sure the pallets clear the AC compressor or else it will smash it. After loosening all the motor mounts, it was just a matter of lifting up the car and making sure nothing was snagged. And just like that, the engine's out. Bing bang boom, now you guys know how to remove an engine from a 2016 Ford Edge. If you liked or found this video informative, please support me by smashing that like button and subscribing to my channel for more how-to and tour review videos. Also check me out on Instagram at ToolGuyY where I post daily. Thank you guys again for watching and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Shoots!